Educating, informing, serving. Fact TV, keeping government honest.
You are watching a Fact TV presentation of the Village of Bellows Falls Trustees Meeting.
And welcome to the Bellows Falls Village Trustees regular meeting. It's March 28th, Tuesday, 2023, 6:06 p.m. down here in the Town Hall Lower Theater. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Approve the minutes for, I didn't see any minutes.
I didn't see any.
There are no minutes, so move to the next meeting.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so do that. Additions to the agenda for routine administrative matters and or pressing matters that will require ratification of future meeting.
Nothing for tonight.
I have one thing. The Historical Society came to us and asked for an agenda item for us to speak about. They want to talk to us about asking for a gift. So I'd like to put it here somewhere. And did you go, I sent it to everybody. Did you
Yeah, I
get
saw
it?
the email.
Okay, I sent it to you too?
Yeah, I didn't know if you want to put down a future agenda since we were going to talk about money.
Well, I think we're doing budget, so it might be worthy of putting it on here.
Sure.
So let's see, let's move the budget to 6 and move this to 5, and it won't take very long, so. So it'll be item number 5.
Okay.
I told them if they want to speak on the matter, they could come in or Zoom in if they can. All right, so that'll be it. Public comment on items. Anybody out there? Doesn't look like it. Looks like just staff and such. All right, then manager's report. Thank you,
A
Scott.
couple things, sure. The road race for the school, I'm sure you've seen some of the signs up and around town for the Rockin' Ham. I don't know how the
5K.
pronunciation is.
The 5K,
It's a
yes.
5K.
Yes, we're working it on Saturday.
Will be, right, this Saturday, so there might be some minor disruptions as people are running through the streets. We just ask people to be tolerant, and it will be on, over in 45 minutes, so hopefully it doesn't disrupt anybody's Saturday too much. But that's this Saturday. I think it starts at 10 if I remember.
It does, and there are
correctly.
lots of checkpoint people in line, so just make sure that the traffic's aware of us.
Right.
There, yeah.
So we just want people to be aware and, be considerate of that as that's happening. The alumni has contacted me, so on your next agenda, we'll have a variety of requests from them for their annual program for activities around alumni weekend. So that will be coming up on your future agenda for their traditional weekend. So we'll keep an eye for that. That'll be on for your next agenda. And we have a bunch of follow-up items about the storm and some other things, so I think we'll just hold off on the rest until we get into our discussion, so.
Okay. All right then, is that it?
That was it.
Okay. Item number 1 is the Vermont Public Service, is that you
Public-
commission, Public Utility Commission, dual poll regulations review.
Yeah,
That
at
was
the
quite
last
a bit of
meeting,
paperwork.
Wade had asked if you recall, he wanted us to do a little research and some follow-up because there are starting to be a large number of these locations in town, and there are rules that are promulgated by the Public Utility Commission about these specific types of pole attachments and what is supposed to happen. So I did highlight, just for the board's information, that they consider these a dual attachment. So I highlighted that section of the definitions of dual utility pole. And then there's a whole section in here on the procedure for what is supposed to happen with a dual utility pole. Like most procedures that are not enforced, it's a great rule, but unfortunately, the enforcement of the provisions is a little bit lackadaisical. So I will ask our folks locally here if they could work with us and start to remove some of these locations, or at least give us a schedule. Because at some locations, there's other attachments still on the old pole, they haven't been removed.
Yeah.
In some locations, the old pole is pretty much abandoned, but nobody has removed it. So I'll work with Green Mountain and see if we can come up with some sort of a schedule and hopefully get them to work cooperatively with us to start reducing and removing some of these locations in town.
What if the pole's gonna belong to Green Mountain Power? Some of them might belong to the phone company.
There are some, but not many. And again, the ones that are not Green Mountain, they'll be able to tell us. those
Yes, they can tell us.
locations, and then they'll be able to work with us to get.
I remember a few years ago, there was a walking tour. Was that prior to, I think it was prior to you, maybe a couple of managers ago, where they walked around town looking at poles, and deciding whose they were and so on and so forth, but I don't think very much changed since then.
No.
But I think it might have even been back when Ever Hammond was still here. So there may be a list somewhere already too, I don't know. But, hopefully they also have a copy of it. Yes, wait.
Well, this is, so I'd be lying if I said I read this whole thing.
Oh, I did. It's wonderful. I
Yeah.
would really recommend it.
Yeah,
But I did read that part that you highlighted,
Yeah.
which is good.
I
So
saved
there
you
is a
the, I saved you the
procedure.
pain of reading the rest, trust me.
There is a procedure then that we can try to follow it.
Correct.
Over time, maybe make this happen.
Yes, I think the idea here is we'll do something voluntarily with Green Mountain and with our local providers, and if we don't get, satisfaction, I think then we go and file a complaint with the Public Utilities Commission and say, hey, we got this issue.
I was shocked it was only 90 days.
Because just,
Since they've been hanging around for like years somewhere.
Some of these have probably been for a decade or more.
yeah, and I'm sure there's some of these that I'm not 100% accurate on, because I'm not a poll expert, but there's roughly 15 on Rockingham Street, 8 on Atkinson, and 3 on Westminster.
Of the doubles.
Either that or standing poles that have nothing on them, they're just sticking there.
Yeah.
It's not
Right.
just here, it's everywhere. I noticed them. in-
Oh, yeah, they're everywhere. Well, I mean, I know that GMP, once they take, when they take lines off, they actually, they zip some of the top off. But they can't touch phone and cable, so
Right.
they're just at the top. So they take off a piece, so just so they can demark it themselves, but yeah, that's all they do. I don't know who the pole unsetter is.
I've just seen them cut them off.
Yeah,
I have not seen them actually pick them up.
so they actually just like cut them down to gray. Okay, I have seen a couple of those.
So-
Well, but this seems, I don't know. Stumpy, I guess.
So we'll keep an eye on it. We'll report back as we go through and see how far we get. And then if we have to take additional follow-up activity, at least the board has some indication as to the process.
Okay,
So,
thank you for all that
sure.
healthy paperwork.
Well, it's more than you need to know about polls and
Well,
poll
no,
attachments.
Again, I appreciate it. I work with GMP.
Right.
So. Okay, so the next item on our agenda is to review the discussion of the village report dedication. I have to finish my president's report by the end of the week. And here we have the double dedication page. You guys have that? And have you had a chance to read? I believe, did Betsy craft the written portion? I found some pictures, but after that.
My understanding is she put that piece together.
Mhm.
So,
I would put in under Ray's that it's a Bellows Falls High School graduate. Rather than just a Bellows.
Oh, I see, yeah, it just says, yeah.
okay.
I didn't want to wordsmith it or anything like that, but I just thought it was good.
At high school, yeah.
No problem.
Well, is that, oh, is there a Walpole High School before Fall Mountain?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay,
I don't know, what was it called in 1961? I guess that's the question.
It would have
Would it
been.
be
Walpole High
Walpole?
School.
Walpole High School, yeah.
Okay. So then that would have been correct. Okay.
Okay. But, and typically, what you're, usually with the dedication night, and no, I've done this, is once the book is produced, usually a couple of us will go around to to present a copy to his wife and a copy to Steve. That would be probably, Tony, James, once the book was produced. So they have a copy, the first, fresh off the press, because they may or may not be able to turn up at the annual meeting, so. All right, what, anything else on this? We're set with this, correct?
Correct. So we'll make that addition that was suggested, and then that will be what we'll put into our final submission.
Great.
Print.
let's see, review 2022 LAMP.
So a little bit of background. So the LEMP itself, every year, this document that I submitted to you guys is basically submitted to the state. And what this really is just contact and basic information about what kinds of resources we have available to us, some of the basic information about what we would do for various types of problems. We do have some things that we're working on, as we talked about after the last power event. In fact, we have a demo with an online automated program that does outreach for people during storm events to give them up-to-date information about things as they are occurring. I did reach out to the school. They have an automated student program as part of, I guess, of their automated student reporting package, and I don't know.
It's part of the whole package, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know the name of what that package is, but that's really just school-based only. It really doesn't.
You probably remember, I can't think of it. But
Something
it's,
school.
yes, and it's included in the
Right.
package.
Right, so that's what they use.
Yeah.
I reached out to Andy Haas just to sort of confirm.
Yeah.
So that's not really something that we could basically try to use that
Replicate,
database of people. So we're gonna have to create one. And so we're gonna look at some options and then come back with some alternatives, to see what might work for
Power school.
Power School.
Power
that's what it is.
School.
Yes, that's their
Okay.
program, yeah.
So be that as it may, so that's one of the items that we're going to have to look into. So that's really the point of the LEMP. And so it is adopted every year. It'll be back in front of the select board, probably in April, again. So it's not a comprehensive response plan. It's more just a sort of an index that the state uses to just get very basic primary information. Looking, where our EOCs are, who's our primary points of contact, what types of response capability do you have, and very basic items. So that really doesn't address some of the concerns that we had talked about immediately in the aftermath of the storm. There are some things that I did write to you in a memo that we're looking into. So there was at least 6 items that we looked at that we're going to come back to you at various points in time. We'll come back and revisit. Some of it I don't have all the information on. We did have a radio failure, so we're waiting for our radio technicians. They have to go basically climb up Fall Mountain to get to our repeater site to find out what happened while we lost our communications with our highway department during the storm.
Does that include the police and?
They're all in the same
They're all in
location.
the
They're
same
co-located, but theirs worked. Police and fire worked through the storm, but DPW went down.
Okay,
So we really don't know why, so that when we get up there, I'm hoping they can find out why, and we can come up with a solution to that problem. Generators are an issue. We had issues like we talked about with fuel. And again, we appreciate CODA coming to help us when we needed it. But my understanding is, talking to them, that they're gonna be doing something at their location, their pump station there, so that we would have access to fuel after hours. But we should still look at other options for our own purposes. If we're going to look at these types of events occurring more often and being longer in duration, we're going to need to come up with some various alternatives and staffing alternatives, because again, we don't have the resources. We have volunteer firefighters and they're great assets and we use them, but in a lot of cases, the guys that are some of our most active people are responding to their own business emergencies during these kinds of events. If they're, helping people get their heat back on, or fuel deliveries, or whatever the case may be for some of our guys, and then a lot of our guys too work for the highway department, so they're already out during these events. So our actual body of people that we can count on during a storm is fairly limited. And certainly if we get into multi-day events, it's incredibly limited. So we're gonna have to look at some options if we want to do things like create warming shelters that will be open for extended hours.
Mhm.
One of
Yeah,
the
right.
items that came up is potentially looking at the senior center.
Mhm.
And if that, if it's a place people recognize, it's a fairly easy place to get to. If we did equip it with a generator and some capacity to do, you have those big phone charging stations where you can put multiple phones on a station kind of thing. If you had a
Yeah,
couple of
gang
those,
charger type, yeah.
that would be a pretty nice resource for folks to have during a significant event. So we're gonna take a hard look and see if that makes some sense.
That's a big building too. And upstairs.
Oh,
Decent
I've never been
size.
downstairs.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
never been upstairs in that building either.
Yeah, that's true, plenty of parking.
And it's a
So
good sized building.
So we're gonna take a hard look at that. Communications, what we talked about, we're already looking at various options for automated call systems. The website is a little bit of a
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
In fact, I'm sorry, we had some sort of power surge here.
Yeah.
Do you still have me with audio?
I'll back up.
Lose my people at Back TV. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the whole thing went,
The
system
whole
went
thing
down.
just sort of blinked and
Mouse
it
went
was
out.
gone, so not sure what happened.
And that concludes our meeting.
Yeah. Adjourn, yeah. No, not really.
And thank you all. So anyway, so we were talking about emergency preparedness issues from our storm.
Yeah.
The last thing we talked about was the automated call systems. We are testing out some various options and we'll come back and just have a conversation about what things might be available. I think another conversation we're gonna have is the usefulness or the lack of usefulness of the Green Mountain Power site. A lot of people complained to me about that site.
Oh, yeah.
About the estimated time for restoration. People were upset because they would call and they felt like nobody had reported their outage, but yet on the municipal side, all of the outages had been reported,
Yeah.
but they're two separate
Yeah,
areas, and I don't think they necessarily discuss or coordinate with each other. So in a lot of cases, I got a lot of people very upset saying, nobody reported this outage for 12 hours or whatever.
well, there were people whose power blinked on and then went back out. So they feel that they weren't being reported because no one was coming and taking care of it. I also know I also know the GMP website wasn't accurate after the first night. So the next day, it wasn't accurate either, and so just felt they weren't being helped, but they also had to get subs out. They just didn't have enough people.
Right. So I think, that's a conversation that I think would be useful to have with them about some things that they could do on their website, which would be beneficial. Because at least on the municipal reporting side, it worked very well. we were able to marry up locations with available crews and resources and actually work together pretty well on places that needed plowing in order to get crews to, trees that were down, and bring our loader up to help push trees out of the way so the crews could keep moving. So that aspect of it worked very well, but I think the public facing side of it didn't work so well, and I think that created a lot of frustration. At least from some of the feedback that I was getting from people.
They get panicky, they get mistrustful, they don't know why nothing's happening. They don't have a lot of methods to get updates.
And I think the other problem is, and this is a real problem that the utilities are gonna have to address, people want real-time information. And what they were getting was information that was 8 hours or 12 hours or sometimes, longer, out of date. So I think that was part of their frustration too. And then the last thing that we'll do is we do have to do some things on the dispatch center that we already talked about. So we're working on what things need to be updated and what potential funding sources there might be available to us for updating some of our consoles and some of our components that are out of date, and it might provide us additional help during some of these events. So that's just sort of a quick snapshot of where we are and some of the things that we're hoping to keep working on as we go forward.
Scott,
Yes.
Good question.
well, the item that's missing there is the responsibility of the residents.
Hmm.
I mean, we have a responsibility to be prepared for these kind of things. I mean, if you don't have a candle in your house, or you don't have some kind of means for light, if you don't have a cell phone, and you're depending on your landline, that's not sufficient. And I think it behooves us at this particular time to indicate that there is a responsibility on the part of the residents. I mean, if you have a parent that's my age, I'm just kidding. No, but if you have a very senior citizen family, and they don't have any kind of communication if the lights go out, if the electricity goes out, well, that's not good. You better be in close proximity to them so that you can come and rescue them. So no matter what we do here, and let's hope we don't have we haven't had an 11-hour, for most of us, it was like an 11 or 13-hour
Right.
outage.
Yeah.
We haven't had that I've been back for
It's been a long
20
time.
years, and we haven't had anything like that. So.
4 days, I'm sorry, Annie, I'm sorry.
What's that?
My daughter,
4 days.
4 days, so.
4
Oh,
days.
yeah, well, I'm talking about
Oh, in the village, it's usually a couple hours and they're back on.
And of course, we've got the select board has to worry about rural Rockingham as well, but I mean, but clearly there needs to be an acknowledgement of the responsibility of the individual to be prepared for this type of thing.
I think the village residents need to consider that this might not be the last time this length of outage occurs. I mean, there have been concerns about the grid being less stable than it has been in previous decades, and our storms are getting worse. So all of that needs preparedness, right? We have to consider stocking up on those. It's not just the bread and the milk and the toilet paper and things like that, but flashlights and batteries. We just went and we lost all of ours in the fire. So we just went and bought 2 huge flashlights, like 6Ds, and to make sure that we keep them around, because they'll last for a while and candles won't do the whole trick. Not to mention that for some people they're dangerous. So yes, we need to do a coordinated effort so everyone is preparing, not just we have to do it as a municipality, but also for citizens as well. We've got cell phones, track phones for older citizens that we know, friends of ours in this state and up in New Hampshire, in order to make sure that they have communication.
Yeah.
Even if they just use it when they have to use it and they're not on a regular basis, just having access to it to help. So, great. Okay, anybody else? All right, then we will move on to the next item, which is is the Vermont State Hazard Mitigation Plan, which we have in our packet.
So every 5 years, the state updates the statewide hazard mitigation plan. We do have a local hazard mitigation plan, which is also adopted at the town level. But this is an opportunity for the board, if there are specific items that the board feels would be important to make the state planning folks aware of, this is the opportunity to get that information to them for consideration in the statewide planning efforts. They have listed, one of the things I gave you a copy of is just their request for participation, and they had listed a host of questions that they were looking at as potential areas that boards might want to respond with. So I included that as part of this package, and then the actual plan itself is a couple hundred pages long, and I didn't figure the board wanted to necessarily go through that. So I did just give you the executive summary portion of it, so it's significantly longer, and if you so feel, you can go on the state website and download the entire document and go through all the detail of it, but this was at least a snapshot of what's in there, just so that you had some sort of understanding of it.
Last page, the state of Vermont letter. Okay. When was this updated?
2018 was the last time it was done.
So this says there are
That's
questions here.
LAMP, that's different.
Oh.
Yeah.
And how, and it does say to speak to your board about this and then get answers. So do you want us to send you our concerns about these questions here?
Anything that you would like me to prepare, absolutely.
Because it says, by April 28, 2023,
Right.
to respond.
So I think obviously some of these items that we're highlighting here, I was going to make some effort to sort of incorporate some of those into the general response here.
Right, and you
because,
have a lot of that.
you know, item 6, which is always our concern, right, which is if funding is needed, what are the biggest barriers to obtaining funding? And quite frankly, the biggest barrier is the hazard mitigation grant program itself. It's very cumbersome to go through. And there are other subsections of emergency management that do offer grants. But I think quite frankly, they could simplify a lot of it and make it simple so that if we wanted to get a generator to support a warming shelter, it should be a very simple grant process with some state participation, for example. Not the current process, which is very cumbersome. And in many instances, especially in hazard mitigation, they want you to then go through a benefit cost analysis, which is very cumbersome to get through in order to qualify for the federal money. So,
They want to wait till you have the disaster before you, come on.
oh yeah,
Yeah, pretty
sure.
much, yeah.
And that way then you can say how much money you're gonna save versus the money you've already
You had
spent
to spend-
fixing
had to
the problem over and over again. So we're having that issue on the drainage that comes down and takes the shale down
Yeah.
the hill there at High Hill, and then we have to dig it out, and if it's too much, it overwhelms the you know, that grade.
And then it
we
floods,
Having
yeah.
flooding on Wells Street and down through the lower portions of the village.
Yeah.
So,
I'm looking at some more rain this end of this week, right? So.
yeah, I'm afraid. So anyway, so yes, if you do have some specific things, I was going to respond, but if there were some things you wanted me to include, I wanted to at least have the board have a chance to look into it, and if there's something that really, you know, you feel strongly or passionately you want to make sure the state is aware of, I'd be more than happy to include it.
I'm assuming you already brought this to the select board too, yeah?
This will go to them when we look at the next meeting, because we're going to look at the LAMP at the next meeting. Yep.
Okay. We are ready. We'll move on to item number 5, which was the historical, which I added as the Historical Society's request. Oh, yeah, thanks. So we all got the letter. Basically what they're requesting is $1,000 to be gifted to the Bellows Falls Historical Society for the Riverfront Park. What was explained to me by Kathy Bergman is that although they can get volunteers to do labor, they need to repair and replace some fencing down there that would keep people from the hazardous areas that they must stay away from that aren't filled in order to use the park, and the fencing is the best way to do that. So I know that the town and do we have it, was it an article that they got $1,000 from the town?
There was an
Yes.
article, more just for general maintenance.
Right. And I'm wondering if we would consider putting an article on our, if we want to put it in the budget as it is, or if we would like to, I realize another town versus village thing.
That's, I'm ready to talk about that.
Yeah.
because This is a situation that it should have gone to the town. And the town needs to deal with the historical society. Okay, if the historical society, this is their deal, right? They've done a good job with grants and all these kinds of things and built up that area down there. And I think that if going forward, if their feeling is that they need to partner with the town in order to keep the park up to snuff or whatever, and they don't do it with their fundraising, then it should go to the town. This idea that the village is a separate legal entity and ought to match the town is ridiculous.
I don't
So-
think they're asking us to match it. They realize after they don't have money for the fencing.
But
That's
so,
why
but,
that's
so
why they're
I mean, yeah, I mean, I think they should have gone to the town for that and not the village. We're the fire department and the police department. That's what the village is, and the water and sewer. That's what we are. And the town is everything else. As a town member, I have no problem supporting it. I just don't want to perpetuate this thing about we can come to both boards because we can get money from both
Put 'em all
boards.
down
And
and
that's-
ask them both.
No, I think that it's up to the historical society to establish a relationship with the town in terms of what kinds of needs they're gonna have. What I would suggest is that we defer any action on this and bring it up at the tri-board meeting, the next tri-board meeting. And discuss what the appetite is at the town level to partner with the historical society. I don't think the historical society is an agency of the town, is it?
No,
Is
and
it-
and
is
it
it
is
a
Bellows
totally-
Falls Historical Society, not Rockingham.
What's that?
I'm just saying that it is the Bellows Falls Historical Society, not the town of Rockingham Historical Society.
Town doesn't have a star.
No, they don't.
That I'm aware of.
No.
What's all this thing with the meeting house and all this other
They're
stuff?
a separate
That's separate,
organization.
nonprofit, yeah.
That is the Rockingham Historical Commission, is the
Commission.
meeting house. And that is, the select board appoints that commission. That's the Rockingham Historical Society. Bellows Falls Historical Society is a private nonprofit, 501c3.
There are two, okay. One's one's appointed by the town, the other one is independent, they're nonprofit.
Well, it sounds like they're coming to a point where they can't be independent. If their fundraising isn't sufficient to cover what they're building down there, then I think it's a bigger issue. And I think and like I say, I think they need to partner with the town in order to make sure that what they're building down there is kept up. So, anyway.
Wait, go ahead.
But I might have missed it, but didn't somebody say that they did go to the town? For
They did,
$1,000?
they got it for regular, and Scott said it was for regular maintenance it's for the path.
They had been getting people to donate services for
Right.
things like lawn mowing and some of the weeding and some of the invasive species removals and just some of the general maintenance and upkeep of the park. And I think they just aren't getting, those people are not getting as much volunteer labor, so they're gonna have to go and look at getting some contracts to help them with some of that maintenance.
And this request is because of broken fences.
Yeah, that was more specific.
Yeah, very, very specific. Steph, did you have anything on this? What are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are that we are in the village of Bellows Falls. I don't necessarily see it as double dipping. And I'm not too familiar with their inner workings of what they got for projects, other than what I read on a website or Facebook. But I personally don't have any problem with this board making a contribution from the Village of Bellows Falls. Because they do ultimately are affiliated or represent us in some form or fashion. So.
Well, when do we, just covering, and we haven't talked to Jeff about it. When do we have to, are you expecting us to finalize the budget tonight? When are you expecting us to finalize?
We would like to at least have most of it done so that we can finish it before we still have to go back and do tax rate, get a final tax rate. So we'll probably adopt it in total at your next meeting, which is.
So beginning of April.
It's just
But
looking
I
like,
think as far as the budget is concerned, we can approve the budget tonight.
yeah, it would be that to the 11th,
Of the 11th.
yes. We have to
Okay,
get the
so-
book out and everything else ready for village meeting.
So, well, I know what I'm getting from Jigs. I know what I'm getting from Stefan. I don't know what we need to go with this next, if there's anything at all. So what do you want to say?
I was just gonna say that I see both sides of it.
Uh-huh.
I don't wanna, I kind of get where Jigs is coming from, but you said they're a 501 completely separate?
They're independent 501c3, although the park that they are asking about is they own it, but they leave it strictly as a public park, open to anyone, just, yeah.
So, yeah, I do think it kind of bears maybe a little further investigation, but I'm not really opposed to giving them the $1,000 for that. I actually, before this meeting, I went down there and looked at it and walked the whole thing, and I went up to where they're talking about the fence.
Yeah.
And it's actually pretty nice down there.
Yeah, it's,
They've done a nice job so far. I mean, it looks good.
It's nice, yeah. I mean, I don't know how much people use it, but I think it's,
Well, I don't either. I know when I was down there early before this meeting, there was probably 5 or 6 people down there walking.
I think it gets some goodly use, and will be better once,
Yeah.
once spring's really full.
And I've heard people where I work in Charlestown highly mention it, and that they liked it, so. Maybe we had at some point, we used to have this, and we hadn't done it for a couple of years. I think last time was pre-COVID, but we had a bus that was available provided by the bus company up there in Rockingham. And we went and checked all these, the select board and the trustees did a tour. We checked out both of each other's projects and areas and got a little familiar with them and got a briefing on them. I think that'd be good to have something here in the near future, if we could do that again. It's pretty beneficial. I mean, we do have overlapping issues. And it helps us to understand what they may be dealing with and helps them to understand what we may be dealing with, so.
But what do we want to do with this request? That's what I'm asking.
Well, we certainly have a lot of ARPA funds. We
do?
certainly have a lot of
$1,000 is not- is a drop in
fund
the
balance. I think it's a matter of our integrity and our, make a,
I think it would be
contribution.
certainly plenty of fund balance. I don't know if I would use ARPA for something that.
Right.
significant.
right, I'm just tossing it down.
Sure.
James is separating town and village and saying this is,
well, I think that this is, the issue here is, you know, organizations evolve, okay? When you have a town board, it's easier to make that evolution because people keep coming up and, you know, new people sign up for the boards, et cetera. I think the Historical Society needs to evolve as well. I think if they are not attracting new and younger members to their ranks, then, you know, I question the future of the Bellows Falls Historical. I thought it was at Rockingham, Bellows Falls Historical Society. And I think that the that this is a bigger issue than a broken fence.
Mhm.
A much bigger issue. I mean, this is a huge undertaking, that park. You know, some of the things that they've done are quite nice. I mean, the labyrinth, I don't know about that, but I must admit, I was brought up Christian, but I don't know what that means. But I think the point of the matter is that this has been their deal. The Historical Society is taking care of themselves, fundraised, et cetera. And I think that if this is a change in what's happening at the Historical Society, if the evolution is not occurring
Mhm.
so that they can, you know, continue to function and prosper, then this is a much bigger deal, okay? And it's well beyond the scope of the Bellows Falls trustees in terms of, you know, adopting this organization.
We're not adopting it, we're
saying-
looking at a
No, but I think-
contribution.
But I think you're talking about putting a Band-Aid on what I think is probably a bigger sore. And I just don't think that, you know, I represent the taxpayer. And I look at every expenditure and I say, you know, is this something that makes sense? And I really question what this means in terms of the future of the Historical Society.
I agree with you that they need to find some additional ways to get their needs met. And again, by adding to the number of people that are participating and that sort of thing. But Band-Aids are used to start the healing process in many ways. So this little Band-Aid, I just want to say that we typically, yes, we as taxpayers, we're paying to the town as well. And they ask for $1,000 there for their regular maintenance. They're asking for another $1,000 to take care of the fencing to protect the public for the use of a Bellows Falls and venue. It benefits the village having them here and the people that are utilizing, creating the walking paths and the bike paths that we've talked about. That's going to be extended from there as well.
It's a lot more than just the past. I mean, Gary, I'm sure, could probably give us a better up-to-date briefing on this to what they do. Feel free to jump in, but it's also a legacy. They, you know, they maintain a storefront. They have a lot of items in there. And I periodically come down and I'll glance at it, see what they got in there. That's a historical value. And I think that's enhances the community. You know, it's almost like a dividend. I mean, it's history. I mean, I love history. So, I mean, I'm attracted to stuff like that. And I do agree, maybe they should do something to increase their membership. But what they've done so far, with or without the help of the select board, I think has been pretty amazing. It's not very often they come and ask for a handout.
Have they ever?
Not to us, I don't believe.
Well, we've done a couple of arrangements here from this board, and I think there was some from the select board, if I remember correctly. I'd have to go back to my papers, but like I said, Gary can probably give us a better briefing.
Yes, Gary.
Yeah, so the Historical Society was formed for the purpose of preserving the Adams grist mill. So the owners walked away from it. It was an operating grist mill in 1965, and it was just abandoned. And so Historical Society was formed, and I think the power company owned the land, and they just gifted it all to the Historical Society and the grist mill and the building. And because all of the other land went with it, they took that on of cleaning it up, the contamination, developing the historic park. But their mission is really the Adams Grist Mill Museum, and they have and presenting the history of Bellows Falls. So they have a really active board that is pretty diligent with their preservation process. So they have the nurturing of historical items. I can't remember what you call it, but that kind of curating of all of the items. So like every issue of the Bellows Falls Times, going back to whenever they have it indexed. And they do a great job with that. And the grist mill, I think it was around $210,000 to repair that roof. They had to replace all the slate. It's hundreds of feet in the air, so a giant crane over there. And they raised the funds of that, they did that independently. But the park, so it's a public park, and that's not really their mission. And that's where they've been asking for help with. And so like I see in the, like some of your ARPA recommendations, like a public green space, or, we have the Fireman's Park. So having green public spaces, that's, there isn't really, I mean, I don't think, maybe there is, but I don't think there's a municipal parks department for taking care of, like, if we have a public park or a public green space, or, well, I guess the village owns the Hetty Green Park, and so I don't know how you maintain that. But so that's
We have a
really,
budget for that.
yeah, so
And
that's
the town
really,
has a budget, a fairly extensive budget for the other
Mowing,
parks.
Yeah, mowing and
much
such.
of mowing, right.
so I guess that's the question, that park, they're not really in the, business of maintaining public parks. And so they've been asking for help with that. They got the power company to maintain it for a year, the Department of Corrections to maintain it for a year. But it's not really their bailiwick. They do have an active board with some younger people. Caitlin Clark, who was moved here from, I think it was Rhode Island, but a retired historic preservation teacher, but retired from teaching, but a younger person who was a docent at the Meeting House this year. She joined the board. And Elijah's been active on the board. They have been, refreshing their ranks, so to speak, for their preservation work with artifacts and the storefront and the Adams Gristmill, the fundraising and donations for that. But the public park, it's sort of a separate issue, and something to consider with the green spaces is if the conversation with them might be, should that be a village park? I mean, I don't know.
I think that's exactly why I thought we should refer it to the tribe board, is that if this isn't part of their bailiwick, then, and this is going to be something that's going to be a continuing issue, then I think it needs to be vetted at the town level. Is this something that the town wants to take, the park part?
The park part.
Sure, not take over in terms of ownership or any of that kind of stuff, but take over in terms of the maintenance of the property. This is way beyond what we can do.
I know, but we have a park now, the Fireman's Park. We have to maintain that.
We
right?
don't have the
Is
farm.
that the town's? It's a town.
We don't have a farm.
You could just have Hetty Green.
We have.
And this came to us because our budget is getting close to being set. And so the town hasn't budgeted for them beyond the $1,000 that they received through the budget process. And so that's why it's here to us. And I, for one, don't have an issue with it. I think, again, with the amount of ARPA funds and the unrestricted fund balance that we have available, $1,000 for this Band-Aid, it doesn't seem a problem. If the board wishes to move forward, someone needs to make a motion.
I only have one other question. So who actually owns that, the park area?
Yeah,
Who actually owns that now?
Yeah, so just one other thing that I hadn't gotten to is you were talking about the select board and the trustees doing something for the historical society. Those were more land swaps. So in developing the park, the poet seat where the labyrinth is, there's a poet seat and there's the promontory with the scenic overlook. Those lands belong to the village. And then some of the lands where the wastewater treatment plant is and that approach belong to the historical society. So you did some land swaps. And I think the town might have done some type of thing like that as well. But it wasn't them coming saying, can you save us with this, financial obligation? And so the park is owned by the historical society. From so where the Adams Gristmill is, those parking spaces and the porta potty, and across the way there's a kiosk at the beginning of the trail. So they own the trail and over to the pond and right up until the wastewater treatment plant. There's a small field that's part of Wyman Flint that SVG owns. And all of the rest of that is part of the park that the Historical Society owns.
And what's the status of like the TLR?
And so the
I
TLR,
know there was a meeting with the town at one time.
yeah, so the town sold that to SVG,
Yeah.
and SVG has secured funding for phase 1 and phase 2 assessments on both the Wyman Flint, the land in between them, and TLR should be starting next month.
What's the acronym? The,
SVG.
So Sustainable Valley.
okay, sorry.
And so, yeah, so those are getting assessed, and the next step would be a corrective action plan.
So will they eventually own the park too?
No, no, the
No.
park is, yeah, it's a
Parkland
separate
is-
thing. And I can't speak for the Historical Society
Right.
Board, but I know a few years ago, when they were looking to get out of the Wyman Flint, they did mention that the park wasn't in their bailiwick. And as we said, there are some newer members now today, so I don't know, but it is a discussion that would make sense to have.
Sure, I mean, I agree with the roundtable discussion with the tri-board, and right now, I'm looking at it, I think they got projects they probably want to start in the spring, shortly here, and it's a legacy for us, for everybody.
I'll make the motion that we, oh, go ahead.
No, okay, go ahead.
I was gonna make the motion that we donate $1,000 to the Historical Society, Fellows Falls, for purposes of defense. And that maybe at the next tri-board meeting,
We may,
joint board.
Yeah.
That it could be on the agenda for that, and maybe they could have a representative here.
If the Historical Society wants to engage in
Right.
discussion.
yeah, okay, so
They
there's
can
two
have a
things, that you got a motion and,
I know, I'm just.
yeah,
I'll
okay.
I'll
So
second
the
the motion for discussion.
Okay,
Yeah.
any further discussion on the motion?
No, I think the only discussion I'd say is, I think we ought to take it out of the current budget. Don't put it in next year's
Take it
budget.
out of this year's budget.
Yeah, just have
Okay,
it,
so out of
have it an
$1,000
expense
out of
this
the
year.
FY 23.
Yeah.
That's fine with me. Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Nope. Okay, so we have passed that, and they will get it sooner than later. They won't have to wait till July 1. And thank you for the discussion, that it's
And
clearly
thank you, Gary, for the,
what we need to do, move forward on, it. They need to
Yeah, my
change.
pleasure.
Thank you for all the back story, we do need it. And it's nice to know who really owns the land. So, it's a very nice park. I wish I could down there more often than I do.
We're working on access that might help that,
Yeah,
so you don't have to go down.
isn't that part of where the 100-year flood came up through? I'm trying to recall by based on pictures. I remember that came right up there from the train, yeah.
Mhm.
All right, next item on the agenda is the 23-24 budget.
So we did get an update to the operating budget, so I suppose you have the updated numbers from Alyssa. Most of the changes that we did were related to some of the personnel updates on some folks that have left and new folks that are potentially taking spots. And because of that, it changed some of our numbers in terms of our benefits packages as well as some of our salaries. So I think when it was all said and done, I had said originally that it was basically a flat budget, about a $15,000 increase.
Right.
With some of these changes now, I think it's closer to 40,000. I don't remember the exact number. I don't have
It's gonna make it like almost a penny in taxes.
I did
Oh,
it was a penny and a half
yeah,
based on our current list. So if it fluctuates
Right.
a little up and down.
Right.
Okay.
And that does not include any use of money for fund balance. Basically no new programming in that budget. It's pretty much a flat.
We could flatten it if we wanted to
Right.
move.
I did show you
That
with your
difference.
fund balance, you're well above your 20% recommended high, you know.
Is that something the trustees are interested in doing and give a level funded budget to the public this year?
I'd be
2024?
inclined to,
I don't think so. I would,
You'd rather hold on to the unrestricted, but the unrestricted fund balance is way over what we need.
I think we've got a recommendation.
Right, one of the things I suggested is we take some of that and restrict it for use for grant funding, especially as we're talking about the EOC project. because I will definitely need a match on that. Most of the grants that I've seen for that type of work is at least a 20% match. So at least 50,000 would give us roughly $250,000 in grant monies to work with, which is, I think, somewhat of the neighborhood we might be in when we're all said and done on the dispatch portions.
So I don't know if I did this right, but
So that is right.
I think I'd like to go through the budget before we,
Yep,
The
Do
most
the
recent
summary.
one that Alyssa just gave
and you
you.
could point out, if you
Yeah,
could point
sure.
out the changes, it'd be great.
so
Where are we
the
looking?
front, according to this, the front page, the raised from taxes. On the previous one, it said 1,619,431. Now it's 1,621,935. So it's only up a couple thousand dollars. Okay. The, I wanted to check on page 2, the audit, in the middle of page 2, the audit, they're not numbered, but it's the second page.
Is at the top of the second
Page
one.
2, yeah. It says, the audit, the single audit is 5,000 next year. Okay, I mention that because when we get to the water fund, we're gonna see a different number.
Oh, their portion, yeah.
Well, but you'll see it, but that's a good number. It's on the new budget as well.
Do you want me to tell you why I lowered that from this previous year?
I think it's because we don't have to do as
Because we
much.
don't have to do a single audit.
Right, yeah. No, I think you had mentioned that before. So the real changes occur in the police department. Right?
Yes.
Which is page,
Page 5,
Mhm.
and the, the clerk item is up,
clerk dispatch.
Mhm.
clerk dispatch. So we're up a little bit on that, and actually
This would-
the
reflects that standard
benefits are
change.
the same. According to this, I mean, the total is the same. I guess-
totals are the same, yeah.
I guess the numbers have changed.
Some of the, like the health insurance, I don't have the old one, but I think the health insurance went down, but the incentive went up. But health insurance is more expensive than the
Oh,
incentive.
and they're combined, yes?
No, there's two different lines.
The health
Here we
insurance
go.
is the same.
Oh, I
The
see.
incentive went up.
So something went down, so that's why they came out the same number.
So it shows the same 86,000
This is the old one, yeah.
and then 23,000 versus 20.
Oh, I see. The unemployment insurance, so the Beamers is down 3,000.
Beamers is down.
Yeah, that's what the difference is. That's what
Yeah,
comes
yeah.
out the same.
But
The
the,
Beamers went,
but the health insurance is the same.
Beamers went down, the incentive went up,
Yep. Everything else is the same.
and I think I put the Beamers down because I just did it like, I don't know.
Okay.
And then the reserves, we're putting a $30,000 for capital expenditures for the server, I guess. The 7,000 for the police chief's vehicle and 25,000 for police vehicles.
Vehicle replacement, yes.
Okay, those will go into the reserve.
Which is outside of the request that I had put into the additional 50 if you wanted to fund for grant match. So that's not reflected in any of the raised by taxes, that would either be the monies that you would want to use through fund balance, which is not reflected in here, in the use of fund balance. So that would be a separate
Is that
item.
a different item?
Where you'd have to appropriate that from fund balance. So it wouldn't affect tax rate, it wouldn't affect, all it would affect basically is,
Right. That's why I'd like to use the fund balance. for
because
those
you have
kinds of things.
$701,000 worth of fund balance as of June 30th, 22. That's on the last audit.
So this shows expenses of 1,668.
Yeah.
Versus 1,665.
Right, $3,000 difference.
All right, so those are good numbers.
That's the most up to date. Yeah.
Now, what did you say about this? You've got this item here, which is a proposed transfer 50,000 of fund balance
Correct.
to capital projects.
So what we would do is create a reserve that would be specifically used for match. So
Yeah.
when we applied for the dispatch operations updates, so the new consoles and the requirements that go with that, that would be used as our portion of whatever match is required. So you wouldn't have to come back and do a separate appropriation.
And we don't need to vote that at the town.
I would
meeting.
like you to vote it. You don't have to vote it as part of your,
No, we can vote it now.
you can vote it
We
into
can
your
vote it
budget.
now,
You do
yeah.
not have to do it as part of the town, right, the village.
So how are we getting
Now,
the
you
elevator upgraded? Is that, we gonna get we going to get a grant funding or loan?
We're hoping to incorporate a package on the building to include the dispatch,
Okay,
that, and then try to use some of our funds.
no, that's expensive.
It's probably 150,000 for the new lift.
Okay.
So those are the two priority projects, and then the third priority would be the Sally Port. The board has decided they want to see more numbers and some refinements, so we held off on that, focused on the other two, since that seemed to be where you were more focused on your priorities, so.
Would you like to make a motion for that, Dick? For that 50,000?
I'll make a motion that we transfer $50,000 from our village fund balance to a capital project fund that would be used to attract grants and provide our matching funds for said grants. I'll second it.
Okay, is there further discussion on it? And this would be from the 2024 budget. Okay, so all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Actually, this could be,
Yes, be done now.
We do
Yeah,
now.
done now, yeah. Most likely used in 2020.
now, Scott, did you say there was another 50,000 we were talking about, or is that this one?
That was this.
That was
Yeah,
this.
that
Okay.
was this, Jason. I just wanted to make sure the board understood there were separate reserves already
Right.
in your budget, and then this would be a new item.
Okay, so the increase to the budget is not 15,359 anymore. That's what it says.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the village budget of $1,668,636
In a second?
for 2024.
Thank you. Would someone like to second
I'll
that?
second that.
Discussion? I guess I'm hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? No. Okay. All right, we have passed that.
Can I ask a question about the fund balance?
Sure.
So, or we haven't got there yet.
Well, you appropriated 50,000, so
Right.
sure. So that 701 is now.
So that's
will
like
be
651, something like that.
Right.
So 651 of whatever the percentage is of the 1,665.
So if 701, 340 is 20%. So
Right, so you're well past.
you,
Right. Well, I figured 18%. It's 276. Because that paper you sent said 16 to 20 range.
Your fund balance policy says 16 to 20.
20.
So 20 is what you would consider the highest.
Maximum.
We're well past that.
Right, because at 18% is 276,000.
Right.
So even if you had that, that still leaves 425 minus your 50 that we just did, what we just
Took
did.
out,
So
yeah,
it's still roughly 375
Correct.
kicking around in
Yes.
there.
Unallocated,
Unallocated,
and
right.
not
I would
reserved.
say
for-
it's
Yeah,
more like,
unreserved.
I would say it's more like 300.
300.
Well, there was a
Is it-
day when we had less than
If our
$50,000.
Budget is $1,660,000, whatever.
What, $1,665,000?
Let's say $1,700,000.
Right,
20% of $1,700,000 is $340,000,
right,
and we've got $650,000.
right.
So,
And that doesn't involve
Yeah.
any result of operations of the current year, so if we trend positively, you'll see potentially.
Do you
another-
anticipate that
Could have.
there'll be
yeah.
money left in the budget for this year when we run out? I think there will be in June. Yeah.
We're running
Close.
pretty close to budget,
Close.
but we're under. We've
But
been
we're under a
consistently
little bit,
under,
yeah.
But we're not, we're not in a large position under budget, so.
Yeah.
I think we're trending positively,
We're
in
at the
a
school.
decent position. I don't know what.
I don't know what to say about the school, but.
Well,
I'd like a safe cushion of like 25 or 50 left over. You know what I mean? That means that you're like,
We're pretty close.
it means that I did pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, you're pretty close with your budget, with your revenue and expenses, which isn't too bad.
Okay, so there are changes to the water and sewer?
No,
No,
the rates that were in there, I just wanted to call to your attention that we had not raised rates
Right.
for water or sewer for 18 months, and we won't raise in this budget until September, which is, so those are reflective of September.
When do we actually have to make that?
Well,
August?
that's in your, we estimated that into your revenues and expenses for
Okay.
those
Already.
separate
So the-
funds.
The water budget here for next year, which is
So both enterprise funds, Jake, reflect a 3% rate increase for.
965 represents, what is 3% on the water?
What is
You
that?
know what the amount is?
Oh, yeah. How much it is on the bill? Yeah.
No, what it would be?
On our overall.
Like the
revenue.
actual, the rate.
So in other words, you added a number into the,
So I took, this year's revenue and added 3% to it.
okay, so this year's revenue would probably be around 930,000.
If we meet all of our revenue targets, I think it's gonna be closer to 950.
And that's,
So that'd be around $30,000.
everybody
In that
maintains,
neighborhood, Jake, just about that.
$30,000. Now,
if people maintain the same usage and.
right,
But
so it's about a $30,000.
that's a fair number to work with. I don't think it's exact, but that's
Yeah.
easy to work with.
Now, we've got a cash balance of roughly $1.5 million.
Right. But
And we're planning to use some of that, right?
we have a big project this summer, which is the tank work, which we've already authorized, which is 175,000.
175.
We have discussed then the second project, which is the Kissel Hill Water Main Project, which is a 50% grant, that's $1.2 million. So that would be 650,000 of our money. Talking with some people today about that, they're still designing, we don't know exactly. It seems like I had originally anticipated it would not be available at all during the 24 budget, but now apparently pipe is becoming available. The problem is you can't get the brass fittings to connect the pipe. So you can have all the pipe you want, but there is no brass. So we're sort of stuck. I don't think we're gonna get both projects done in 24. So I'm anticipating that moving into a 25 budget discussion. Because we just can't, it doesn't make sense to start the project, order the pipe and have it sit there while you're waiting for the brass
Yeah.
connections. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Okay.
And nobody can tell us, there's only 3 manufacturers of this material. And I talked to the suppliers this morning, as a matter of fact, at the water plant, we work on a couple things. And, they have no idea why this is a problem, or when it's gonna get rectified.
So my point is that if, let's say we did both of those projects in the budget, we'd be using about 25,000.
If we use cash for gold, yes.
About 800, we still have like $1.5 million. So it seems to me the 30,000, the 3% rate increase is a de minimis amount.
Yeah,
I mean, to me, I know we need funds in the water, in the sewer department.
yeah.
So it's sort of like, well, you know, unless you're trying to say to people, the consumers, look, there's gonna be an increase every single year and get used to it type of thing.
Well, we tried to keep it so that it was every 12 to 18 months, and we didn't want to do what the last time you guys had that
Okay.
increase and it went up.
Was it 6%?
No, it
It's more
was
than that.
double
8.
digits. It was like 12 to 15%.
Well, we did on the sewer.
And people went crazy.
Yeah.
Well, we had no choice. I mean,
Yeah.
we just-
So that's what we're avoiding.
Yeah.
If you do it every few years, need it
I'm
or
just talking
not,
about this September. I'd rather do 3 or 4% of the sewer fund. And just hold off on the water fund because we've got all this cash in there.
It could possibly in the future bite us in the ass.
But
Not
it's
increasing it
$30,000
now.
bucks. I mean, it's,
I know,
it's
$30,000, which just goes to the base and adds from year to year, so.
I mean, if you wanted to, Jigs, you could reduce the revenues in the water fund by 30,000 and request the use of fund balance of 30,000 to replace that, and then you keep the water rate flat. You could do that if you wanted to make that a modification. That would do that without impact.
So when we would, yeah, so we would use those dollars and not increase the rate.
Right,
They're saying,
right.
Fund balance
Oh,
for the
it's-
general fund?
No,
no, from the water fund.
No, no, no.
Yeah, I think those things can't, those barriers can't be breached.
Right, on the enterprise fund, the water fund. is-
the water, the difference is the water fund, the fund balance is also the part of the plant that you own,
Oh,
that you've already paid for.
Mhm.
So in a general account, the fund balance is pretty much cash.
Right.
So, I'd rather do it that way, I suppose. I think
It's a healthier fund, there's no
Yeah.
doubt about it.
Yeah.
the healthier fund.
revisit it next year, wouldn't let it go too long without it.
yeah, well, the
Then we don't have to
conversation
do
will
it
come
at
up again after the new fiscal year, so at this
Right,
point.
the May billing is going
Yeah.
out as is, everybody,
Yeah.
like, that's not changing. September, we would change sewer rate 3%, leave the water rate flat. And then we revisit it again this time next year, when we're looking at our overall budget and see where we are.
Really are. And there was a time when we used to do water in, water out, so it was the same, increases were done the same,
Same,
yeah.
but then but what
Then we got off.
public needs to know is that our debt service
Yeah,
on water. Okay, we tried to do projects together, but because of the largesse of the government,
Mm.
it has favored water projects versus sewer.
it has, yeah.
So we have-
So our debt service in water is 260,000
Uh-huh, yeah,
next year. The debt service in the sewer fund is over 800,000. So it's just a, you know,
Yeah.
it's
I-
not the same.
I do agree with you, that's fine. Yeah, we do that, but I just want to make sure that we all agree on doing it that way and nothing changes. That's, I don't know, do we have an emergency which that would cause that, but like you said, 30,000. There is
This is
a,
our source, that would be the one emergency, like if something happened to the pond, it
yeah,
would be, you know.
exactly. There is a gentleman or someone,
Yeah.
a person who would like to speak in the audience, Union 5636.
596.
596. Yeah, Deb, Jamie Barrett, 8 Bryant Court. Hey, so just one question regarding, I understand the brass fittings or whatever aren't available, but I heard the comment that it doesn't make sense to purchase pipe if we don't have fittings, but where do we look in the future on the price of piping? I mean, obviously we have a place to store pipe if we're waiting on fittings or to go forward with a project, but with inflation and availability, where are we gonna be 8 months from now if all of a sudden the brass fittings are available, but then we don't have pipe or it's gone up 15%? So if we know availability and cost, it may, pay to look into having a laydown area somewhere where we can store for future projects. And on that note, just one other thing, I'm sure it was an oversight, but I didn't see this meeting tonight warned anywhere. I actually looked this morning on the calendar and there was nothing on the website. And if I hadn't got notification from Fact TV, wouldn't have even known that the meeting was going on tonight. So we're looking for more participation from the community. So if we could just take a look at that and see how that happened.
I know that it was posted on the town website, rockbf.org or rockinghambta.org.
The agenda section.
The agenda, in the agenda section. I don't know that the calendar that we used to have running is functional.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't looked at that in a while.
There was a meeting scheduled for tomorrow morning at 9 on the calendar for zoning or something. But understand, we don't look at the calendar, we look at agenda. All right, thank you.
Yes, under the section with the boards, at the bottom is agendas, and if you have tab, it's agendas and minutes. If you click there, you'll see first the select board, then the trustees, and so on and so forth.
Jamie is right, though, used to always be on the calendar.
It used to be on the calendar, yeah, I know. Which is a quick look, it's supposed to have the date. I appreciate your comments, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Okay, so the water budget has not changed, right?
No.
But here's the question. Wait, on page 2 of the water budget, we have audit financial services. Now, the sewer fund under audit has 4,000. The general fund has 5,000 because we pay more.
Oh, why is that?
Why is that 7,100?
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Because we're going to have to do a single audit because of the grant funds
Oh,
for the
If we
project.
secure the grant funding through the intended
the
use
water.
plan,
Okay,
clean
that makes
water
sense.
Funds,
Yep.
that would trigger a single audit.
Okay.
So why we put that in there?
Okay,
So there is a single audit.
okay.
If we get the full approval, they're still working through the intended use plan, Jake, so it's not
Okay.
final.
You
All right.
know, I mean, I don't wanna make another line, but if we had a single audit line, instead of
No,
audit
no.
slash single audit.
No, it should be part of the audit.
Sometimes you don't even know though, too.
Right.
You could budget for not having one and then end up
Having to do one,
having to
right?
do one.
Okay.
Like the town didn't know they were gonna have to do them, but then there was a storm and then we got all the grant money and.
Yeah.
and single audit.
Okay.
Okay, then on page 3,
So
under equipment, we've got the vehicle replacement there, and I believe that should be down under projects.
Where are you looking?
That's not really a project.
Well, but,
Oh, I see.
I mean, if you look
we
at
want it as a carryover, so it shows as a fund, that it
it's
shows.
going into a fund,
Correct.
Right,
and, we
Kind of like you
show
did
it,
with the vehicle replacement and the PD, you want it to show as a separate item
we
outside
show
of.
it, we show it separate. on
So
the-
when I do this entry, the expense is gonna be me moving it to the capital fund.
yeah,
So there will be an expense. I'm showing $7,000. And then I'm gonna move it,
expended
I'm
to.
gonna expend it, and I'm gonna put the revenue in the capital fund.
Well, if you look at the,
So where's the line item that you're gonna display it in? I think maybe that might help.
Well, we don't have it in here. We don't
It's
have
not
the
gonna
capital.
survive.
see, if you look at the sewer, okay, page 3 under equipment, they don't show that. But on page 4, under project expenditures, there's the 7,000.
Oh, yeah,
So
Okay, so I think that,
I think I would rather move this from project expenditures back up to vehicle, to equipment.
okay, whatever,
Yeah.
I would just want to do the same thing.
Right, so it would be the same on both.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it's more of equipment than project.
Right, it's a good project.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
But
true.
it is a reserve as opposed to a purchase.
Right,
Right.
and these project expenditures aren't for reserves.
No, no.
Yeah, so,
So it's, whatever, I mean, as long as we're treating on the general fund, what do we have, like capital reserve? What was it?
okay,
yeah, that's for, there's an expense line for moving money to capital.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know, that's on the back page, capital expenditures, we call
right, we
it.
don't,
And the fire vehicle and the police cruisers are in there.
right,
So just the consistency. The other thing was, what is the $10,000 equipment purchase for the water fund? Is that?
right,
We used to do prisoners to cut
Yes.
that grass. And they
You can't do
stopped
that anymore.
program. They're
Yeah.
not-
it was $100 a day, for any, the amount of
Which was
people
great.
needed, now they don't.
And they had stopped doing that. They stopped it during COVID and they have not resumed it.
Yeah.
Keep asking,
What if
and
Different liabilities.
I'm not sure what happened, but I just don't think they're going to restart it for whatever reason.
I heard they were gonna stop making plates too, I don't know who's gonna do it if they don't.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, I heard it a few months ago. Okay. But, I mean, then he's still being projected that for another year.
All right, so I'll make a motion to approve the water fund budget. And the expense budget is, well, you've got that $100,000 in there. Why don't we just approve the budget as presented?
As presented, yeah.
It's like a $64,000 increase in this budget, but keep in mind, we're doing some staffing changes here
Changes, yeah.
too. So I make a motion to approve the water budget.
You don't wanna do the water and sewer together? Yeah. You prefer to
Oh, we
separate.
could. We could.
That might be easier to do.
All right.
And, I think the item was for the water and sewer rate essentially, was it not?
I just put it on there
That's a
that the
separate-
board should adopt, I would be pleased. I just wanted to be clear so that there was no misunderstanding.
Right, right. I think we already covered that one time.
So I would move in that we approve both the water and sewer expense budgets.
I'll second that.
All right, any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And any opposed? Okay, I've done that. Future capital projects, ARPA.
Do you want the rate increases voted tonight? Or you gonna-
You want to do it on the record? It's easier for me.
Yeah.
That way. If we could, I think it would make it clear.
Yeah, it would, that what our intent is.
Right.
You want to do that
I
one?
move that we increase sewer rates or wastewater rates by 3% in September.
Effective the September bill.
All right, give me a second.
Second,
Okay, any further discussion on that? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? None? Okay, all right, that's done too then.
And what are we gonna do on the, we're gonna take it from fund balance on the water side.
30,000 or whatever it is.
Right, right,
30 odd thousand.
right. It won't be 30,000 exact, but it'll be close.
Okay,
Right.
all right, that's good.
Now, do you need a motion for that, or?
Since
Not
this
if
doesn't
we're
deal
not
with the rate,
changing,
we're okay.
As long as I'm
We've
not,
adopted the budget, so we'll make the numbers work within the budget. We understand your intent.
did we already cover the fund balance proposal? That was your letter, right?
I think you dropped it, you did that
We
first.
dropped it in, yeah,
You did that early.
exactly. So
That's
we got
fine.
that one done.
So now we've got ARPA left.
So what's left is, yeah, future capital
So-
projects are fine.
But the only thing with the fund balance.
Yeah.
Was, so we're still gonna end up, like Jake said, approximately 300,000. after all the dust settles,
After all the dust settles.
which at some point we still need to discuss, right? According to the auditors.
No,
No,
you don't.
He didn't say.
They did not comment in the audit, but I think it's something the board should be aware of, and as we talked about ARPA, it can assist us if you want to extend your ARPA dollars to look at possibly using some fund balance to mix some of your proposals. We don't have costs on all your proposals, which is why I wanted to try to get your priorities settled so we could start doing some costing and come back to the board with.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was my thinking about doing a poll of some kind, was to sort of narrow the field.
So we basically took your previous suggestions, put them in a couple of documents, just so that you could see what everybody had submitted individually, kind of through email. I had my original listing, and then Gary took the information and put it into a, I guess, is this a Google poll,
This
Gary?
is a
Google form.
Google form, okay.
Yeah.
Not a Doodle, because Google has to touch every aspect of our lives. And because
Yeah,
of
but
that.
this is one more.
It now has this lovely representation, which is a lot more expressive than my bland, boring Excel spreadsheets. So maybe Gary, you want to just sort of give a highlight on,
Yes, so all of the items that you folks had listed as projects went into the form. And as you know, you went through the form and chose if it was first priority, second, how important it was to you, or if you weren't interested in it at all. And the little graphs, it's kind of a summary of your input by project area. So for instance, you look at the first one, how important it is to invest ARPA funds in the water department. And you had 3 items on there, solar programs at the water department, biosolid storage program, or repair and replace the CO2 feeder. And so you can see in the solar programs, one trustee had that as a highest priority. 2 trustees had it as a 3rd priority. And 1 trustee had it as a 4th priority. The biosolid storage, 2 trustees had that as a top priority and 1 as a 2nd priority. So clearly that one that's pretty important to you. That scores pretty highly. And 1 is a 4th priority. And then repair and replace the CO2 feeder. That got a 1st, a 2nd, and a 3rd. So that scored pretty highly as well. Although there were 4 trustees responded, so
Right.
Someone didn't put anything on the water department. So just that's how to read the graphs, the summaries. The other page that you had,
but the biosolid, that's not water department, is it?
no, it really should be another
That's
way.
wastewater.
oh, okay, I just say, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it just ended up on the wrong.
It's still okay.
Still answers the question.
Yeah, it's a run section, though. Okay, so that would go in with the
Second
sewer.
Yeah, wastewater, that's okay.
No big deal.
Okay. And then the other format just shows for each trustee how they voted on each item.
Oh, this is the bigger one here.
Yeah, the larger one.
Yeah.
So less useful and less, like you wanted to add Jeff's prioritization in, he could take one of these sheets and go and add his scores on all of them and,
Because we only had four voting, so Jeff was not here, and it came out yesterday, so he did not get a chance to weigh in. Can you tell me what the turquoise means when it's not 1st, 2nd, 3rd, or 4th?
so that means
No
not
interest at all?
interested, yeah.
Okay, that's not interesting.
Where's the not interested?
So,
The turquoise lines, if you see
if
it.
you look on the second page,
You'll see it.
so the grass boiler, the grass facility houses, I wasn't sure what that was, but
I
that
don't
got
know.
all not interested.
Yeah,
Investing in the grass boiler got a 1st priority and a 2nd priority, and then 1 not interested.
so
Where do you see the one not interested?
it's the turquoise one at the end. of
Oh,
it. See
okay.
that? Yeah,
There were 4,
there were 4 total voters.
But that's, I'm confused because the,
So I'm sorry, I said it wrong. 2 people voted that as a first priority
Right.
to contribute. 2 trustees voted first priority to contribute to the grass boiler fund. 1 trustee voted it as a second priority.
And one wasn't interested at all.
Yes, yeah. So that's pretty highly
That's pretty clear.
scoring. What's that?
That's pretty clear that they got 50 grand.
However,
Yes.
we have a 5th trustee who hasn't weighed in. And it probably wouldn't be appropriate to make decisions based upon this, but everybody in. So,
But this
Oh,
way,
no.
once he goes in and scores it,
yeah,
we can reprint these.
yes, that makes sense.
And
yes,
you'll have,
exactly.
and you'll know how to read them, and you'll have his input added in there.
No matter what we do with this, it will not impact your budget, the tax rate.
No, this
It's
is,
more for the discussion when we go to the
Right.
building meeting, you can say, we've looked at all these things.
Well, this is helpful though. I
yeah,
like the way you did.
no, I appreciate
These
it.
are the priorities that we've asked the staff to
Well,
start.
we
their
do,
policy
You know,
because-
you do, you can look at here and see how I voted.
All the dots, yeah.
Oh, it has your, it has your name.
Right here, safety guaranteed, which is.
That's me.
Oh, okay.
Oh, look, I'm on top. Yeah,
I was thinking that this was a poll of a bunch of people.
no, this is just for the
This
10
is
of
not
the
a public
trustees.
poll, this is just internal to this group.
Right, we had all these different ideas and we needed to find a way to get through them and get down to a smaller list.
Mhm.
Right.
So in order to do that, this made sense so we could tell where the weighting was going.
okay, so you've got Deborah's
Yeah,
and mine,
here's the second,
Yeah, Jeff is the only person who didn't
mine
participate.
is third.
third,
Right.
and then
And Stephens is in there.
Stephens is fourth.
Yeah.
So I do have a listing with prioritized about the public process input, but I didn't distribute that because that item was last and it got 1 score as a 3rd priority and 2 scores as 4th priority.
Which one? We talking about? Oh,
Oh, the one that said if
Yeah.
there's,
the
if you
end.
if you have funds left over, put them
Yes,
to the community project.
right, to spread them out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the last page, yeah.
Right, so
The-
So maybe potentially we can see if Jeff, when he gets back, would be able
Yes.
to prioritize his.
Yeah.
We reproduce this for the board and then
Yeah,
have
then
it at your
we
next
all
meeting.
know how we
So
felt.
that
I
way
mean,
we can narrow it down to.
exactly. This is not intended to replace our voting on any of these items. This is only intended to show where we find priority and where we agree and disagree on points.
Karen,
And
could you,
We get a small list.
could you go to the one on say, how important is it to invest ARPA funds in the police department?
Yeah, I see that.
Oh,
Okay,
okay, that's fine.
fire department.
Okay, it's on the
Yes,
second.
okay,
all right, is that the Sally port?
yes.
Is that what that means?
Solar
Well,
panels
so,
and Sally Port.
so it's funny because they were put as one item, solar panels in Sallyport. They were,
Although I think that ought to be, I didn't know anybody was interested in adding solar panels to that building, but I would have thought that should have actually been 2 separate
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah,
In order
that's
to,
why all
Yeah,
the
they are separate projects for
marks.
sure.
I know, so they should have been, that really needs to be 2 questions.
okay,
because
so I can separate those out into
That'd be
2.
great.
Move biosolids to the wastewater department.
And on the ARPA funds for the police department, please separate the first question.
Now,
Yes,
That's
yeah.
on that one.
it almost seems like if each one of these things
Yeah.
has a score here.
Yeah.
Okay, it would seem that, you wouldn't have to worry about the colors,
Right,
you know what I'm saying?
I do,
It
yeah.
would show, you know, there'd be 5 marks, and
Yeah.
some might be up 2 or
Just try to
whatever.
keep us awake with the color.
Yeah.
But
So I don't set that up. So the form, I put the questions in the form, I can separate them out and move them around. But then these graphs, I didn't create those. Google says, do you want a summary
Right,
of the
okay.
voting? I say yes, and it spits out these colorful graphs.
Okay.
The only thing I didn't understand when I did it was what that option 1 meant.
Oh, yeah, that was,
I clicked on.
that
it,
was,
but-
what do you call it? An artifact, irrelevant.
Yeah.
Okay. Should we call Jeff right now and get his answer?
Yeah, right,
Just off the cuff.
off the cuff, yeah.
If I may, I'd like
You
to,
got 30 seconds, go.
I'd like to go to the very last page of that survey that Gary took so much time and effort to put out. And we always talk about increasing attendance at our voting and at our village meeting, as well as they did at the past town meeting. So it's, and James has mentioned it a couple of times. I've heard that word merger. Maybe we should put that on as an article on the,
Dirty word.
to be voted on, to see if we can get a public opinion.
Oh, geez.
It's true, because I don't think
I'm
you,
no longer on the merger.
You're not, I'm shocked,
I'm exhausted on
gotta
that.
say.
so wasn't that in here?
Well,
Dealing with town policing,
yeah,
that has merit.
That is merit, yes.
I thought that was one of the questions on here. I'm not seeing
It
it
was.
was responsive.
It's one of those multiple things.
4 of 6.
Oh,
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I see, yeah, merge front, so that, yeah, so that did not score.
no, it didn't.
I put a lot of those.
Me too, especially because town owns town.
Well, you know, I think that we have, you know.
I know you like that, Scott.
we sat here and debated that marijuana question last
We
year.
didn't get to vote.
That's fine, you know, I like to be a fairly board, I don't just go
It is
flatly
scary,
through a
I
meeting
get
here.
Who you want to vote for, let me know.
I wanna vote on these.
So go ahead, take your own, have Gary send you a copy.
We'll have 16,000 graphs.
Yeah.
Oh my God, if we had that, I know, if how much time it would have taken for us to get more opinion than just the 5 of us, and we still only got 4 of us.
Well,
Yes.
it will be helpful though to narrow us down to
Yeah.
really 5 priorities that the board then wants us
Exactly.
to get
Right.
cost information, get real, detail, and then come back and say, okay, let's allocate.
Instead of
numbers
continuing to go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth about many items,
Right,
at least let's agree on a few.
and it is helpful to do that because we are, as silly as it sounds, we are approaching 2024.
Yeah.
We want to
Sure.
see you start to expend some funds by October of 24, so
Exactly.
we don't have that much time.
It seems like a long time, but the next thing is on us. So.
It'll go quickly. So this is actually very helpful.
Okay, anything further on this?
So eventually we'll see an updated
We'll
one.
get an update, yeah, when you can
Yes,
send us an
we'll get
update.
Jeff's, we'll bring it back to your next meeting on the 11th.
And I'll send you a note because you can go back in and revise your
Right.
score once they're separated out.
Yeah.
If you want, you can revise what you put for those. So
If you send it to us again, we can, oh God. then
Or
we
change
do
our
it.
opinion or
So you change our opinion,
Yes.
that's true.
Can you move that one for the biosolids to
Yes.
score after it's been voted, you can?
So this'll, it's a fluid document. So, I set it so that people can go back in and change their votes. If, like, say the discussion here convinced someone they wanted to do it differently, they could go in and change their vote.
Yeah,
Just let us know when you update it.
I will, I'll do that.
That'd be great.
that was a good
Awesome,
idea.
thank you for the work.
Yeah, very well.
But when we get the updated one for our individual, will it show our original votes?
Yes,
Okay, so
Yeah,
we
it'll
just,
still have you.
so we can pick and choose if we want to.
So if you accept it as is, you would just accept it as is,
Okay.
and that
Right.
would just be the new,
I
the
got
new
you.
tabulation, whatever that's going
Yes.
to be.
When is Jeff getting back? Trying to remember. It's been a week, is it a week, 2
Don't
weeks? I
know.
can't remember.
I'm sure he'll be back with plenty of time to get this done by the April.
Yeah.
meeting.
Okay. All right, well, looks like we ran out of items.
Gary, thank you for that. That was
Yes,
actually
it
very helpful.
was great, glad you could do that. Review agenda items for the next meeting, which is April 11th.
All right, so we'll have our tax rate on there, our estimated tax rate based on tonight's activity. We'll have our ARPA finalization based on getting Jeff's input, and then we'll have some paperwork coming to you about Union Weekend. Those things are for sure coming your way.
Okay. Let's see,
I got a hand up there again.
what's that?
You have a hand up again?
Oh, good goodness, okay. Yes,
Yeah, I was just wondering, as you're looking at agenda items, and I know the last meeting, there was a lot of talk about the emergency management plan. We're gonna look at corrective action and root causes on the last storm. Is there any feedback? Is there any information posted on, you know, where and what happened with GMP or communications, what we're gonna do moving forward?
I'm not sure if you didn't turn up until after we already started that discussion. That was item number 3 on our agenda this evening. We did a bunch of that. It will be coming to the select board because they do a re-agreement on the emergency management plan for this year. They'll be doing that, and it also, we have intention to talk, maybe discuss with the town at the joint board meeting, which will be at the end of May. So do you think it'll be the first or second meeting in April that the select board will be discussing this?
It'll be the first, because they have to have the comments in on the statewide plan.
That's the 4th, right?
So theirs will be the 4th.
April 4. So we did have discussion, there is updated material, and working on more things. So I'm sorry that you missed that. Please turn up the select board meeting on the 4th. You can you'll have a chance to speak on the matter if you wish at that point. And so they had their, what is it, the 360 they do afterwards to determine
We
what
started
went
with
well,
an
what
after
went.
action report on items that need.
So that'll be available. So you can come to the 4th meeting and select board. And
Okay, and I apologize for missing the first part of the meeting, but didn't see it on the calendar. I understand agendas, but so Scott, you're putting together a report of all the findings of what we lost for communications, where GMP was, and those deficiencies identified for that meeting.
In a broad, I just gave an outline to the board. There'll be more detail at the next meeting because we still don't have all the data on some of the problems. And then some of them are going to require some additional follow-up with GMP. But yeah,
Awesome.
there's kind of items that we're working through.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Joint board meeting, we've got that, and I'm sure what else will come up in May as well, but it's a bit down the road, but we'll get there. Review of a review and approve orders, bills, and warrants.
Motion to second.
Okay, so we got nothing to pick one. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? So you got yours, just they're all signed, I'll follow or something. And other business, Scott,
No, what's up? Thank you.
Alyssa, you got anything? No. Except you want to take the survey. So. Wade,
2 quick things. I guess I should ask this earlier, but is the annual report is going to be out earlier? I mean,
Well,
on time, on
Yes,
schedule?
part of the reason why we put the dedication page in today is we're
Yeah.
finalizing pieces of it.
Right.
So we're hoping to have it done to the first draft out to them by the end of this week or beginning of next week.
yeah,
So we should have it in more than enough time to have it out.
Prior to that.
Now that you've
Well,
approved those budgets, I can
yes,
get those
Yeah.
into
correct.
the thing.
So yeah,
Which
we will
takes a while.
definitely be well in advance of the May.
so we'll have time, and,
I got
I
the
just,
town one out early.
right,
Yeah.
only because I know last year that was a question.
It was
a
a
little bit
question.
last minute last year.
yeah, it was a problem.
And the other thing was, in addition to the banner that they're working on,
Mhm.
we can get at least one, maybe 2 of them. I don't know what you call them, boards.
Sandwich
Sandwich
What
boards?
they call
Yes.
them, that we can put something about the meeting, to publicize the meeting.
Oh,
We do
like
have
up front of
sandwich
town
boards
hall,
we can put out in front of town hall. We're gonna
maybe at
start.
the public safety building, put the other one there.
They
so-
have one there that
Okay,
I've inquired about,
Yeah.
we can use it and put it out front there if you'd like to.
yeah,
Great.
I mean, more's
The
better.
more the merrier. Absolutely.
We'll do that.
That's
The porta potty will be gone, so,
I'm sorry, that's my comment, another
Hopefully.
business.
Your town is over on
Everybody will
Sunday,
be gone
the
and-
body will be gone on Monday.
Well, I'll take care of that one then, in addition to the
Okay.
hanging the banner when it gets here.
All right, they're great. Oh, which reminds me, we have budget money for that, I guess.
We'll be all right.
If we have to get a new banner and,
We have plenty of
another
money.
sandwich board, they're not all that expensive.
To do that. We have sandwich boards upstairs, we're good.
Oh,
Yes.
Jakes,
Just I don't know if people heard this earlier, but the Barker Street house came tumbling down.
Yes, it did today.
Today,
I should have said that earlier and I completely forgot.
And I'm sure that will be appreciated by.
moving the view,
It looks amazingly better when you
I'm
cross that
sure.
bridge.
sure, so it does. Okay, so it's today, because yesterday,
Started this morning and most of it was
Yeah.
gone by noon.
went down to James, so it wasn't down yesterday, so. All righty, so my concern is, I appreciate all of the feedback and working on what happens when the next emergency happens at Bellows Falls, that's important. And yes, they has received some material, because, there is a porta potty out front of the town hall, there was a citizen complaint, about it, and yes, I'm a little bit disturbed by it myself. I understand the play that's going on, I also understand the Rich Earth Institute. I just have concerns about appropriateness and that's it. It's my opinion. Some people are fine with it. Apparently, I didn't even pay attention to it. It's been up for a week.
Yes.
So I'm gonna go and stare at it when I go out tonight, up the building. But, I don't know. I agree with the citizen who didn't think it was appropriate. But that's my opinion. Staff,
Let's paint it red and put Doctor Who on it.
oh, now it's a call box.
Now it's a call box. No, I was gonna mention the Barker Street. I didn't wanna steal steam, but,
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
that's great.
we're set. We're all set.
Well, I think, we approved the banner,
Uh-huh.
which of course isn't doing too well in Berlin.
No,
Seems
it's
to
like,
be scrunching up.
it keeps doing, yes.
Absolutely, yes.
But I have a feeling we might not have taken the same view on the porta.
No, if anyone had asked if we were okay with them putting it out of on here. I'm assuming they got your permission.
They had asked if we could put it out.
Okay.
We're hoping to use
It
it
was
in
a
other
teleport
events.
machine, I mean,
We're hoping to use it in other festivals and other events over the summer. So that
Okay.
people get used to. the
Oh, great,
idea.
don't turn up in Henny Green Park, okay.
It might.
Mhm.
Probably will. This,
Gary, since you're here, I want to.
Flannel
Any
vest.
last
This might.
comments? Great, thank you for your help today.
Yeah. like
And I'll be seeing you the rest of the week, because I've got a lot more meetings now. All right, then, since having nothing further, we have no need of executive session. All those in favor, I'm sorry, I need a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
This meeting was recorded by Falls Area Community Television, located at 1 Hospital Court, Bellows Falls, Vermont. If you would like a copy of the meeting, our phone number is 802-463-1613, or email us at fact810@gmail.com. Falls Area Community TV, keeping government honest.